Okay, we are live in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome everyone to the White Collar Therapy and Leadership Show. I'm your host, Rob Holman, joined together with co-hosts Sheri Traxler and Ryan Girardi, and we are thrilled that you have joined with us here today. Before we actually kick things off, I've got to share the thought of the day with you. And the thought of the day is how we define success will ultimately define who we are. Now, listen, you may be here, one of two different types of individuals. One who is already a leader and you're looking to mature, develop, enhance your leadership ability. So in steps, inside out leadership and my inside out leadership philosophy. But you may not be a leader or a seasoned leader. You may be here and tuning in, and you could just be, I don't know, a worker, a working professional that is not so happy with how your leaders are doing things. But don't become disgruntled. Don't start the gossip, but actually learn about how leaders how leaders do it the right way, how leaders actually begin to lead more effectively from the inside out. So you can be the change agent for your bosses, your leaders, and see it rub off on them. So if you are that aspiring leader, that working professional, or a seasoned leader, welcome to the table. All are welcome. So we're thrilled you're with us. Ryan and Sheri, it's great you guys joined with me here today. And we got to catch up a little bit in this virtual coffee shop. And Sheri, I know you've had a lot going on. So take us into your life a little bit. What's been happening?
For 2 weeks, the past 2 weeks, I had two keynotes, one at the Tennessee Christian Chamber of Commerce, another one with a group of women organization. Went phenomenal. One of them I talked about energy. The other one I got to talk about my history with intuitive eating and dieting and getting set free on all that stuff. And I'll be honest, you all, that one was the tough one because when I go into something, I love to teach.
Yeah.
And just to stand up there for a half hour and talk about me was very uncomfortable. But a lot of people got things out of it, and that was great. And then my husband and I went straight from that to a week at the beach to veg and kayak. And we tried to find shark teeth. Amelia Island is supposed to be really great for finding shark teeth.
Yeah.
We didn't find any.
You didn't. So yeah, hopefully it wasn't too much of a big disappointment to you and your family.
No, it wasn't. Well, at least we didn't find sharks. That would have been a big disappointment if we'd been in the water and actually found sharks.
Yeah, no, that would have. No, but it sounds like a vacay, well-deserved. And how long have you been speaking professionally? I mean, is it one of those things you've been doing for quite some time? And
I have been blessed that my entire career, I've been doing that, whether I was in a job or in my own business.
Oh, no, that's great. And that, I tell you, as we've discussed, behind the camera, Sheri, keynote speaking, training, et cetera, it's its own unique thing. And you are a gifted communicator and gifted teacher. And as I always say, Ryan's heard this over the years, that it's always more caught than taught. Yes. And you burn with passion. You have life experience and wellness that the world desperately needs to hear. So it's great that you joined with us today. And I always have a lot to learn from you. Ryan, you have been busy too, my friend. You are in the middle of a conference. Tell us a little bit about that. Come on.
Well, yeah, different setting. As you can see, I'm in Las Vegas. This is the Aria Convention Center. I'm actually up on the mezzanine. So behind me is one of the expo halls, and facing out kind of a loft area. So I have a what we call a media station right here, and I've got my camera set up, and we've scheduled people to come in for interviews, and we'll record some and do some live streams. So yeah, I'm here. Today's a big day. Yesterday we kicked it off, and today will be a full day.
Yeah, and I've got to share this. There's some people that are certainly watching this live, and they can't help but see the backdrop of Ryan. And I said before we went on live, I said, this is one of two things. It's either you are co-hosting the White Collar Therapy and Leadership Show, or you're getting ready to cut some rug and show some dance moves that you've never seen before. And maybe it's a little bit of both. I'm not certain, but if yeah.
You said I'm getting ready to what?
Cut some rug.
Cut some rug?
Yeah.
Come on, Ryan. You know what that means.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
Never heard that expression before. Yeah, it might be some dancing. I'll do the moonwalk before the end of the day.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Before time escapes us too much, there is the question of the day that I wanted to pose to both of you to get your unique perspective on, but also to kind of pose to the audience as well. And this question, listen, we could take all day long and talk about each other's lives because we thoroughly enjoy one another as human beings. But certainly as working professionals and leaders, there's things we come across day in and day out that affects who we are, those around us, and the decisions that we make. So here's the question of the day for us and the entire audience. How much does your definition of success dictate the decisions you make as a leader? And I think we all would agree that success is one of those interesting words that immediately when you think of success, the average person, dare I say leader, maybe has, I don't know, dollar bills flashing in their mind, you know, more power, more this, more material things. I don't know. It could be different for different people. But I thought this area of success is important enough and significant enough for us to push the pause button to have some really meaningful and deep conversations surrounding. So, Sheri, I'll turn to you first. When you think of success, or those in your sphere of influence think of success, like what comes to mind? How would you define? And based off of that, I mean, am I crazy or what? But does that actually, depending on how we define it, will it help determine some of the decisions that we actually make? Yeah. What do you think?
To answer the second part of your question first, Rob, of how much does it? If I was giving it a percentage, I'd say 99%. Mm-hmm. Because like from, you know, if I determine success as having an organized workspace, I'm an organizer, you know, that's in my makeup. So when it's not organized, I am stressed. I am like, people get out of my way. I got to get this cleaned up. Yeah. So if someone says money is their thing, 99% of what they do is going to be filtered through the money or the fame or the power. And as far as to define it, mm-hmm. I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate, I guess.
Please, yeah.
We always think when we are thinking altruistically and, you know, big picture, oh, it's our relationships or it's our, sense of joy. It's whatever. Now, sometimes success is money because money does tell us how much value am I adding to you. If the world pays me $50,000 or they pay me $500,000, that's a measure of how much value I'm bringing to them.
Yeah.
So that is one element. It's not the only element, but if somebody starts saying, oh, money is not the measure of success, I'm like, no, it's one small piece of the puzzle, but it's in there. Same thing with power, influence. Well, maybe you don't want to all be about power and influence, but if you're not influencing anybody, I wouldn't call that success.
Yeah, true.
I did reach out when I knew we were going to be talking about this. I reached out to my online community and I was pleasantly surprised that the answers that came back were joy in the joy of making others joyful.
Love that.
Another one that came in, and I thought this was a nice way to look at the money piece. One gentleman said that building passive income is his measure of success, but specifically it was so that future generations in his family would have that.
Yeah, it's like a legacy. It's almost like a legacy he's leaving behind.
Absolutely. So it's not the money itself. It is how that translates to his relationships. Yeah. For me personally, success has got to mean a little bit of all of those things, because at the end of the day, if I've checked things off my list, but it's not really made an impact on people, I don't feel successful. On the other hand, if I've had a great conversation with one person, but I've left out all these other things that need to help other people, I don't feel successful. I think the biggest thing for me, Rob and Ryan both, is if I define my success solely on the outcome, I'm done for.
Wow.
Because I cannot directly control the outcome.
Oh, can you say that one more time? That right there that's what they say is tweet worthy. I mean, talk about that, because a lot of people need to really grasp that, Sheri.
And I don't know if I can say it exactly the same way I just did, but if I define my success based solely on my outcome, I'm done for, because I cannot directly control the outcome. Let me put it in a simple example people can grasp that is in my world, my territory that I live with every day. If somebody says, I want to lower my blood pressure,
Mm-hmm.
If somebody says, I want to get more fit, whatever that is, great, but you don't have direct control over that. You do have direct control over, did I walk 3 times this week?
Yeah, good point.
So for that, the success measurement is, I walked 3 times. The success measurement is, I showed up for work every day, even on the days I didn't feel like it. Yeah. Whether or not anybody bought my product, whether or not anybody, joined this, whatever, it's so whatever your business that you're in, if it's auto, I know, Ryan, you work a lot in that area. Maybe I didn't meet all my numbers, but did I do what I had direct control over? It was a successful day.
Yeah. And do you know what, Sheri, and then Ryan, I'm going to turn to you. Sheri, one of the things I love that you said, so many people, when they define success, for instance, they will view it very black and white. Well, this is how, in this particular area, this is how I view success, power or money or influence. And others say, well, no, if not that, it's going to be this. You're stepping back from it all, saying there may, in how you define success, and challenging, encouraging other people to broaden their way of thinking, view it a little bit more holistically. There could be certain aspects of money, influence, et cetera, all that make up the greater whole called success, which I love. Ryan, I do want to turn to you. So great point you're bringing out, Ryan. So would you agree? I mean, if you think about, I just find this, so many people get swept off their feet with maybe how our culture defines success, or how our business culture defines success. And then it's almost subconsciously, they've just adopted and embraced this definition. It turns into a way of life, and they're making decisions out of this place, not based on what really matters to them personally, as much as what matters to our culture. And we've just kind of gone down and followed the current of our culture and letting our culture define success for us. Is that what you have found?
I think the way that you phrase the question, how much does how we define success dictate the decisions that we make? When you think about when we make decisions, there's actually a lot of different factors that go into it. So there's things like instinct and intuition, which are 2 different things. There's logic and reasoning. There's emotion. Sometimes we make things out of desire or maybe even temptation. So sometimes we can justify in our mind that we're making a right or a good decision when other people might say we're not. So there's so many factors. And how often do you sit down and say, success equals this, so I'm going to choose this? That's a logical influence. But Sheri, I think what you brought out by saying that the outcome is not a measure of success, okay, is kind of where I was coming from, because there's things you can control and there's things you can't. And what you can control is the actions that you take, which factor into the process. And if you can define what success looks like and equals to you, mm-hmm. that's great, but you have to define a process of how you're going to achieve that goal. Mm-hmm. And then what you can control is the process by which you go through. And you could define and say success is if I meet X% of my goals in this defined process. Sounds like such a rigid way to go through life. I do not go through life that way. So yes. If you're asking me how much does how I define success factor into my decisions, I don't think it does. And mm-hmm. that might sound flippant, but I have an idea, I have an oasis, if you will, of what I see success as for me in my future, and it's visual and it's intrinsic. But along the way, I make decisions that I believe are feeding into that. And I'll be real transparent here. One of those decisions I make, I don't think was the right decision. I lost a marriage and a family over it because I believed that it would help me achieve what I believed as success. And so maybe I made a bad decision. Can't change that though. Yeah. So I focus on the process. Mm-hmm. I feel successful if I can put time into places that I believe feed into that dream that I'm striving for.
Ryan, I so appreciate what you're sharing, what both of you are bringing up and out. So if you think about it, I want to get real practical for the viewers and the listeners, because it's a great conversation to have, as we know, and a lot's at stake here. Let's be really honest, a lot's at stake. And I started out by the thought of the day being like, how you define success will ultimately define you. So I think practically it's almost like, what do you really value? Like, what do you really value in life? Do you know, and I'm not just talking specifically to you two, but everyone, do people know their personal core values? Do they know the things that are really, really important at the end of the day to them? Is it security? Is it legacy? Is it commitment? Is it family? Is it, you name it? Like, what are those things? And try to be as specific as you possibly can. And something that I found to help in this process is this. If you find yourself in the ICU, now this is going to be kind of like, really, Rob? You have to go there? I don't want to have to like go there, but this is a wake-up call. There's two different ways. You find yourself in ICU beside, and let's say it's you in the ICU, or you're given a certain amount of days to live, in that kind of a place. And those that are closest to you surround the hospital bed or whatever. And they're asking you, like, what's the conversation like? What are they asking? What do you want to get across to them? Is it material things? Is it money? Could be. I don't know. Is it more than that? Is it about how much you love and care about them? Is it about I don't know, maybe how the decisions that you made in life have impacted them, good, bad, or ugly, and how you want them to think about things different? What is it at the end of the day that you truly value? What are those things that if you no longer are on this earth that you'd want to leave in the hands and the hearts of those closest with you? And meditate on that, reflect on that, ask questions surrounding that. And I think that's a really a good beginning point, or it's certainly an opportunity for rediscovery for many people out there based on the things that really matter. And out of that place, beginning to determine or define what success really means and looks like for you. I mean, would you guys say that's can be a pretty good starting point? And out of that place, then begin to put some things out there that are more practically that'll help you achieve? Or am I thinking the wrong way?
What's coming across my mind as you were talking is time. You can't get any time back. That's kind of cliche, but you can't. And using the analogy of imagine you're in the ICU maybe you're in your last and final days, you can't suddenly say, I wish I spent more time with you and you and you. You can't. You're done. You don't have that chance again. So going back to what you can control is putting time into people now that you believe it's time well spent. You just got to do it. So, time for me is something that you can invest into, if you will, your time, invest that into people or whatever you're investing it into. And that's based off your values
Right. So Ryan, am I hearing you correctly when you basically like keeping the end in mind? So when you have something, when you are fast forwarding your life and you're imagining something like, wow, I don't have really any time left, should in fact help you back way up. Well, I got to be that much more intentional.
Sure.
I've got to define or redefine success based on that future state, and hopefully none of us are in that, but one day we will all pass from this earth. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And if we can utilize that wake-up call of reflection to help us define or redefine what success really means. I mean, Sheri, is that, am I making sense?
You're making sense. And it brings to mind something this weekend. You said a word, intentional. And that strongly resonated because as much as after having the keynotes and after being with my husband for a week, I was coming back, okay, it's time. I'm ready to get back in the work task and get things done and help that. But my father, who's in his mid-80s, we needed to be able to spend a day with him out on the lake, and because he's had a stroke and not to get into all that. But the point was, it's got to be some intentional time because there is a small window of putting into his life and building those family relationships. So guess what? Saturday was spent at the lake and the laundry still needs doing.
Yeah. See? No, that's so good. Ryan, you and I have talked about this. This is jumping out as I'm hearing Sheri. I'm really listening to both of you and just absorbing so much. And we talked about this years ago. Just the average entrepreneur has this mindset, business owner or just influential leader of, I have this responsibility that's increasing. It's ever increasing, growing, et cetera. And so I'm just going to get it done. If it takes a few years to build up my business, my department, my company, I'm just going to do whatever is needed, whatever it takes, that mentality, right? And it sounds so noble, so admirable, right? You roll up the sleeves, you get down and dirty, you do, so that I could, at that point, a few years after, spend more time with my family. And what I brought up to you and so many others, okay, so how old are your kids now? Okay, so let's say they're 10. So in 5 years, are you willing to bypass 5 years of being present and having more of a work-life integration built into your life in this, for the sake of, in 5 years, then I'll be able to spend more time with my family. But look at all that's happened. 5 years of your son, your daughter, your family that is bypassed. You haven't been nearly as present. Not to mention, do you think when certain habits have been formed, spending so much time, 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks, do you think after 5 years, it's going to be easy now to spend more time on the home front? No, we've got to envision some things in the future, good, bad, and ugly, that could happen to have, awaken us to go back to be like, what really does matter to me? Sheri, you brought up a great example, and you were really honest saying, you know what? I just felt like I need to jump in and get some things done. But you know what? My father means a lot to me in our family. And I want to be intentional. I want to be present, because I'll never get that time back again. Mm-hmm. And so I so appreciate both of you and just, yeah, your unique perspective, the dialogue that we have. So I want to encourage people that are listening, viewing, spend time. Who are the people and what are the things that truly matter at the end of the day? And if you need an extreme exercise, view yourself as having 6 months or a few days to live, whatever, and people are starting to surround you knowing that you're about ready to take your final breath, again, that day or just a few short months away. And what's that conversation like? And what to you is most meaningful in the midst of that conversation? Out of that place, define or redefine success and what it means and what it looks like for you. And out of that place, start setting some goals, start setting some things in place to where you can have a sense and source of accomplishment, right? Some mini goals, one that feeds into the next. And I think you'll be much better of a human being and much better of a leader for it. So closing thought, Ryan, why don't we start with you and we'll end with Sheri with a closing thought today.
My closing thought would just just restate, I think, the time factor that you don't get back, what you were just alluding to. When you're making choices and the decisions that go along with that, they come with sacrifices. And so I think you have to be realistic with what those costs are. And one of those costs is time. One of those costs is money. You could say, I'm going to make this choice because it's going to bring me money, but you have to look at what the cost is. I'm going to make a choice because it's going to bring me this and it's not going to bring me money. You got to look at what that cost is. And those are things that you have to juggle. So you just got to balance it all out. And I think if anything, my takeaway from here is me personally maybe need to put more attention to the matter of defining and weighing these things out before, making intuitive decisions, if you will, because that's how I roll emotionally and intuitively. That's how I roll.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Sheri, what would you say closing thought and or a takeaway that you have? Yeah.
Closing thought actually stems from where Ryan was gently beating himself up, I guess. I don't know what the right term is, when he was saying, okay, I made this decision, thought it was the right one, maybe turned out not to be. Whether you're making a decision intuitively or making a decision out of your head, we're all going to make decisions that we think are going to lead to success, and they don't, or they cost us somewhere we don't expect them to. My thought is, let it go.
Yeah. 100%. Great conversation, and great having both of you on today for another show, another white collar therapy and leadership show. So Ryan, any housekeeping items, anything that we need to talk about before we officially let go?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me make sure my screen shared. Do you see today's post on the blog for the show?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So folks, if you're subscribed to autoconversion.net, then you'll get an email typically within a week from the time we schedule each and every episode of the White Collar Therapy Show. Also, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel and you have the bell icon pressed so that you get notifications. That way you get notified through YouTube, which is really convenient to watch, right there on your phone, either live or, at your own convenience. The blog post announcement that goes out has the the live feed embedded into it. You can set yourself a reminder. If you're not already signed up for the White Collar Therapy Show, or for White Collar Therapy, I should say, go to whitecollartherapy.com. That will bring you to our sign-up page, right here. Get registered. That'll give you access to the playlist of all of our shows, and really bring you in on the inside. We have a member network set up in Slack with a channel for White Collar Therapy, so everything goes into there. And really focused on building this community. This is our final episode, guys, until our season finale, which is in 2 weeks. So we'll have all 5 of us.
Can you believe it, by the way?
5, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be pretty epic. So we're looking forward to that. Sheri, if we could, just to kind of give you a little bit of limelight, I have your website up here, thevireolife.com. Could you give us just a 30-second plug on what people can expect by visiting thevireolife.com?
There are a ton of videos and blog resources for people to live healthy, to increase their energy. Right now, I'm doing a big energy series because I have found working with companies and executives that people are not as productive as they could be. In fact, research shows about 20 to 30% production on increase when people are living a healthy life. So that's my big push right now.
And you have a free guide, how to overcome the guilt and shame of diets and get fit the sane way.
Yes. You do not have to live at the gym.
Oh, one of the things I love about you, Sheri, is you truly are, it's about lifestyle change, but not these even extreme. It's just like these one foot in front of the other, that leads to living life out of a different place.
Yes.
And so thank you so much for your voice that's ever growing and increasing. It's a voice that the world desperately, desperately needs to hear.
And yours.
Oh, thank you. And Ryan, thanks for pulling up. My Inside Out Leadership Academy. I do want to let people know about this. If you go to www.insideoutleadershipacademy.com, this is a way for individuals through my online courses to interact with my Inside Out Leadership philosophy. The flagship course is called Lead the Way. And you see, we have session 1. If people just want to go there and they just want to camp out in session 1, it is for free. If they find themselves really liking this Inside Out Leadership content and interacting with it in a highly interactive way, then sign up. And this is for the serious seasoned leader or serious aspiring leader, because it is 35 plus course hours with keynotes I've given, workshops, interactive exercises, and videos that I've never, ever shared before. So you are going to want to go there. And if you are part of the White Collar Therapy community, you get to save 70% on the course. The course costs $995. If you go all the way to the closeout of the course, just put in WCT, lowercase, WCT19, and that will literally give you a 70% discount. The course goes from $995 down to $295. And I'll tell you, just putting it together was a total joy for me, knowing the impact and influence it would have on you. So
it's a pretty good deal. I got to finish that course. I started on it, but I haven't finished it. So I'm going to add that to my checklist of things that I can control and get done.
There you go. I love it. Good man. Good man. Well, Ryan, unless there's anything else on your end, any other closing things? No?
Nope. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And if you're tuned in on the podcast, we appreciate you being a podcast listener. Thank you.
Yeah, so appreciate Sheri. Once again, always a joy and an honor to have you on. Ryan, you and I, man, my partner in crime, we've been at it for a long time. It only keeps getting better and better. So no further ado, I just want to say, on behalf of Ryan Girardi and Sheri Traxler, I'm Rob Holman. Until the next time with a White Collar Therapy and Leadership Cell. We'll see you later.
Okay, we are